Shalom. First and foremost, I like to give all praises and honor and glory. It's definitely due to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Rakak Kadash. I like to give a special double honors to the elders and apostles on down at Great Millstone. And peace and salutations to the elect. May the blessing of election be upon your household, on you brothers and you sisters out there that listen and take heed of the true doctrine of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, spoken by his servants, the prophets. And I wanted to go into just a part two on, keeping your anger in check. And Lord willing, I hope you hope this will be edifying. And so, it's a part two. And, again, being in the time, Salaki, being in the times that we're in, you want to be mindful of your of controlling your anger, because when you are angry, you're not thinking clearly. And the Lord wants us to have a clear mind, especially when you're out here dealing with these people, man, because you got to understand, these people, they're not disciplined. You can see it with the Israelite woman Eve, and just a lot of these women in general, they're not disciplined to control their anger, because for one, a woman works through she bases everything off emotions, how she feels, and give you an example. One of the brothers put up a video, and it was showing this woman, she, this Eve, she going back and forth with this Edomite, and she's in the car, and he come up to her car and everything, and they're exchanging back and forth or whatever, and then all of a sudden it turned real negative. And so one thing led to another. The guy, the Edomite, he called the police, and it was just a bunch of things that could have been prevented if she had been mindful, if she didn't let her emotions take control. But being that a lot of these women, especially Eve, are in that spirit to where I don't need a man, or they're single, they're not looking to they're not looking for a man for guidance, because let's face it, a lot of there's some of these women that do have men, that are Eves, but they don't look to them for guidance, but that's another topic for a different day. But thing is, you want to keep your anger in check, man, because what ended up happening was this man, he pretty much jumped on the girl, and this man, being a man, he gonna overtake the woman. I mean, unless she's got some demons on her, which that can happen. She could have some demons on her and do the man up. But let's just keep it real. In most scenarios, a man is gonna, beat up a woman, and if they're in a confrontation. And so, that's an example of to be mindful, not let your anger or your aggression take over your mindset, So with that being said, I'm gonna go into it. And we're living in the times of the end. and all the more reason to be more mindful and uh, uh, understand that in certain situations you could possibly be sent to the spirit world by letting your emotions take over. Sirach chapter 1 verse 22 through 24. A furious man cannot be justified, for the sway of his spirit shall be his destruction. Yeah, so a furious man can't be justified. And once he's led in that mindset, he's controlled in that mindset, or he's in that mindset, it could lead to destruction, man. In other words, you could be sent off to the spirit world, or you may end up going to jail, or maybe possibly you get beat up and you got to go to the hospital. Who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to just understand situations. Just say, for instance, if there's 5 guys coming after you and it's just you, it's nothing wrong with running. I mean, it'd be better to run. And at the end of the day, Jake be having pride and shit, but you gotta be realistic, man. Guys got 5 guys come up and they got a gun. You don't have one. Are you still gonna stand up and talk shit? It makes no sense. So it's best to not be in a spirit of fury, man. Verse 23, a patient man will tarry for a time, and afterward joy shall spring up unto him. Yeah, sometimes in those situations, it pays to be patient. And a lot of times it's just how you approach the situation. If that person is furious and you come in a mild of spirit, it's hard for them to go back and forth with you in a furious way, because you're talking to them in a mild tone. Verse 24, he will hide his words for a time, and his lips of many shall declare his wisdom. Yeah. So that's what a wise man would do. He would, he wouldn't, go back and forth with no, someone that's a man of fury, that's in fury, Again, we're living in the time of the end, and you just, especially with these people out here, they're not in tune with Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, but Yahweh Hashem Yahushai shows us through the scriptures how to deal with situations of that magnitude. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 1, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. Yeah, so if you're in a spirit of fury, and that person is gonna return that fury back to you. Especially if he's someone of the world. Verse 2, the tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright, but the mouth of fools poureth out foolishness. Yeah, and that's exactly what that young lady was doing, going back and forth with this guy, and he was like asking her, are you a Trump backer? Are you a MAGA or whatever? She said, no, I didn't, I didn't vote for him or whatever, but a lot of times these people just, they're mad about a lot of things, you think about it, this country is not going the way that they was hoping it would, and Trump kind of gave them like a hope that things would go back to a way that they could deal. But he come into office and everything that he had promised ain't going exactly the way they said it was going to go. And so that's done upset a lot of these people that voted for him. So right now they're upset. The cost of living, you weigh in, the cost of living is going up. The dynamics between man and woman is here in America is declined a lot, because of the things, because of, for one, the gender wars, and now you have women that are in that spirit that they feel like they can confront a man because, when you think about it, in their mindset, which they're delusional, but everything kind of works in their favor, so to speak, until you meet a Jake, whether it's Jake or whether it's Esau or any man of the other nations, don't care about, doing whatever they got to do to you because they just that irritated. But it's got to that point because you got to understand we're kind of sitting on a powder keg. Anything can happen to set these people off, man. Anything. And so that you're just looking for the right thing for to happen. And once it happens, a lot of these people are going to show, they're going to show who they truly are, man. Right now, I mean, it's somewhat, as you could say, how do I want to put this? It's somewhat civil. But you're still sitting on that powder keg. And like I say, it's just, all it takes is just the right event. And usually, it could either happen towards the end of this year or maybe in the beginning of this year, of next year. Who knows? Depending on how the Lord sets it out, because at the end of the day, we know that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua controls it all. But in the meantime, we as men of the Lord, we want to maintain our anger, man. And yeah, I know sometimes it get hard, whether you at work, whether you on the road, getting to wherever you're trying to go to, because people be, you could tell even in how people be driving, that they ain't in their right mindset, So people are not at ease right now, man, So all the more reason, for us to pray when we go out here dealing with these people, to pray to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua that everything goes well. We go to where we're going to. We want to pray and say, Lord, help me get to where my destination, Baba Kasha, Baba Kasha, Baba Kasha, just, because things are so that, things are intense, man. Just throw them prayers up, man, Matthew chapter 24 and 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Yeah, so as the time goes, as we continue on in this wicked society, things are going to get worse. So that means people's mindsets are going to continue to get worse. So they're going to wax worse and worse, man. And they're going to have a very cold spirit on them, whether it's your family, whether it's people that you went to school with, whatever. It doesn't matter, you know. Uh, um, it don't matter, man. You just gotta always have that mindset that these people are not under the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, so they ain't right. And a lot of times the people who are the worst ones can be the ones that you know. It could always be strangers, like this Eve. She encountered you know, this Edomite, which, you know, at the same time, he wasn't right jumping up, you know, jumping, you know, getting in front of her car and all that, talking crazy. But at the same time, you know that he being a man, but that's the spirit of these Eves, because and just the woman in general. It's not, you know, a lot of times we always talk about Eve, but you know, these women over here, American women, period. You know, whether they're of the nation of Israel or whether they're an Edomite woman, all of them have that prideful, entitled spirit. And that's why the scriptures tell you in Second Ezra. Let me get that right quick. Second Ezra chapter 8, verse 50. Because I mean, this scripture is really, you can see in the spirit that it's bound, it's coming. Second Ezra chapter 8 and verse 50. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the earth, because they have walked in great pride. Yeah. So, you know, Eve, as well as a lot of these women, have walked in great pride, man. Esau, he's the most prideful of them all. So, you know, great miseries are going to come to these people who are in that spirit of great pride, man. You know, so, you know, all the more reason to, you know, in the times that we're living in, to keep our anger in check. You know, keep in mind Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 1 and 2, and you know, just continuously to pray. You know, pray. All these things have to happen, you know, brothers and sisters, and they gotta happen, and you know, that's the way the story ends, man. But at the end of the day, like the scriptures say, let me go back to Matthew, and I'm gonna close out. All these great miseries have to happen, and like I say, you know, the Lord's gonna at the end of the day, the Lord's gonna protect his elect. But it's all about endurance, man. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 13. But he that endured unto the end, the same shall be saved. Yeah. And so the elect, they're going to endure to the end. And Lord willing, we're of that ilk, man. So I hope this was an edifying lesson, giving all praises and honor and glory. That's definitely due to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Till the next time, Lord willing, I'll say Shalom.